Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome to
hey.
a special edition of Monday, Old Reader, New Reader.
Monday. Oh, yeah, it is Monday. Wow, I'd like already spaced on that.
So it's usually done on a Tuesday, and Andrew was so nice and flexible because last Tuesday I was like, my internet's going in and out constantly, which could be a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was like, can we move it, or can I come to your house? And he was like, let's just move. I was like, okay, sweet. So it is a special week of back-to-back Old Reader, New Reader today and tomorrow. So Andrew, welcome.
Nice.
I mean, they should know, but tell people at home who you are.
Tell people at home who I am. So, yeah, I'm Andrew. Oh my God, I've been around this near mint condition thing for a long time now. What was it, 2016 when we started this thing? And
oh my God.
Yeah, that was what? Yep. So yeah, been around. I love it. If anybody doesn't know, so back when we started the Near Mint Condition channel 8 years ago, I was the guy behind the camera. I am not somebody who is like so fluent in a particular realm of geekdom that I can just speak profusely about it, like Omar and Rob and Maddie and Tina and everybody else. So I just kind of like sit and like to absorb it all through all my friends. So yeah, I don't normally read comic books. I don't normally play video games. I mean, I dabble in all these things, but I'm definitely a new reader when it comes to most things you throw my way. And
it's great though, because we can find things we have in common and special interests. So I can be like, hey, let's do a sci-fi book. And this one is special because you showed me for the first time Christopher Reeve Superman, first movie that I'd never seen, because that, which I love and I'm obsessed with, and has like a big place in your heart for you. And I don't know if you want to speak to that or not before we jump into this, but I think it would be nice for me to hear that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah. So yes, Christopher Reeve, Superman, 1978, the year I was born. Definitely holds like I just grew up on that movie for some reason. And it just like stuck with me really hard. Like that movie and all the sequels, mainly the first two. There's two more that Maddie, you'll come to learn later, are like, we maybe try to forget that those happened a whole lot. But the Richard Donner Superman 1 and 2, and Superman 2 is kind of sort of Richard Donner, kind of not. But yeah, like those just like define my childhood and honestly my adulthood. Like they're in many ways, as I grew up as a child, I just aspired to be Superman. And interestingly, more recently, as I'm learning more and more about myself in therapy, I'm learning that there's a few drawbacks to aspiring to be Superman. So, that's been a really interesting learning process as well. But like, nonetheless, these movies, I have watched them so many times. All of the voices are just like ingrained in my head. I can recite lines and I can hear just like one note of the theme song and just like the hair on my arms just stands up like crazy. So yeah, they are very special to me. Top 5 favorite movie all time.
Which I love to hear that. And I loved this because I was one of those comic book readers that started reading comics. I was like, I don't know if Superman's for me. And then all it took was one good Superman book. And I was like, this is my man. I am dedicated. I'm committed. And then after I watched Superman, I was like, we should have you on. Let's just choose Superman book. Now, originally I was going to choose like one of like the like recommended ones where it's like Superman for all seasons, or like Mark Waid's Superman, or like American Ale. There's a bunch of them. And then I was like, wait a second, there's a whole like this is recent actually. This came out like the trade came out in 2022, where they decided to continue the story from the original movie. And I was like, you know what, that'd be really fun for you and I to kind of dig into, especially since you have that background. So even though like you're a new reader in this sense, in a way you're kind of an old reader, because you like this setting and this Superman is something that you have a lot of like time spent with.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point. Like, yeah, you're right. The book is brand new to me, but the world is so the opposite.
Yeah. I don't know what this comment means. Damn, Andrew, do I have news for you if you like Tim Burton's Batman movies. That's my era of Batman movies. That's what I grew up with.
I love the Tim Burton Batman movies. I'm guessing maybe that's in reference to some of the therapy. I don't know. There's definitely some dark alleys that we go down.
Man, I wish one of our viewers sent me this. So it's like it's a magnet from Pop-Tarts for like the Batman and Robin movie. So it's
my gosh.
No, but I love this garbage. I love it so much. I love these movies. They're so bad.
That's amazing.
Let's talk about what's really good. Superman.
Okay.
So Superman 78. I only seen the first Superman movie, so I couldn't tell you either way if this is like where this is in the continuity of these. I'm glad that I got you the physical so you could show it off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look at especially this right here. If I get my camera focused on like, does that not look like Gene Hackman? Come on.
Dead on.
Yeah.
They killed it with him. So this is by Robert Venditti. I'm going to probably say the names wrong. And Wilfredo Torres. And it's spot on. Like the art throughout this, it feels like you're really in that like Metropolis, like in the movies. So I guess we could do a quick, like this centers around like Brainiac. Now, I can't speak for like how Brainiac is in like every like iteration. But I thought this was very interesting the way they went about this with like Brainiac shows up basically because he's almost like a collector of sorts. He was like the last one of his race. And so he has pledged to continue that on. And and in his goal to do that, he is doing that to other races as well. Like, oh, they're dying out. So he jumped in as Krypton was being destroyed. He's like, all right, I've saved you all. But not in a way that's like really promoting saving, almost like a collector sort of deal, not unlike like the collector like Marvel Universe deals. So he's like, okay, Superman, you're the last one. I have to take you back too. And of course they butt heads and then, having to fight over Earth and we bring over some interesting characters. And I think we should talk about it as we go, but I guess before we like dig into like, bits and pieces, what was your like what's your first thoughts about this? Like as like a Superman movie diehard? How'd you feel about this?
Yeah. Okay. So I had two thoughts almost right away as I started reading this. Like, I don't think I got past maybe the second page before I realized two things. One, the voices, because so many of these characters are drawn so accurately to the movies, like the voices instantly popped into my head. Like I was reading the roles as if they were those actors. Like there was no avoiding it,
Yeah.
This happens to me a lot. Like I'm definitely one of those people that if I'm reading a book, if that book is already based on a movie or TV show that I'm familiar with, then I will absolutely put those characters in that spot. If it's not, or I haven't seen that property before, like for example, I read the Lord of the Rings books before the movies came out. And I absolutely like filled in those characters with other actors that just like kind of popped into my head. I wasn't like really seeking it out, but sometimes they'd pop in my head. And sometimes they turned out to be fairly close to what actually ended up in the movies and sometimes not. This was like unavoidable. There was no getting around it. Like every one of them was just spot on. So I was just reading, I could hear every single voice, which wasn't just the voice, but it was all their mannerisms, right? That really came through. The other thing that really popped out to me right away, and maybe I'll show some of this as we go, is that for better or worse, the artist absolutely just like straight up pulled frames straight out of the movies and used those as panels. Oh, so many of them. I'll flip through and start pointing them out as we go. But yeah, there's a lot. So many, almost to the point where it made me question, like, is this an homage, or are we getting to the point where they're just like, I'm just going to draw most of this book by pulling frames from the movie?
Yeah.
Like, it was. I'd like to know other people's opinions on that, because I was kind of like, this is cool. Also, it seems like maybe a bit much. I don't know.
See, that's good to hear, because like I haven't watched as much as you, so to me, I don't recognize this from anything. But that does happen in other books. Like a lot of the Star Wars books, when if they look really hyper realistic, looks like they just kind of pulled exactly from movies, like almost like photorealistic as they're like drawing, and so it can be like jarring. So I imagine if you're used to seeing something so often, of course you'd have a second sense to be like, wait a second, that's the exact same pose.
Oh,
I don't know if that's a good thing or like a bad thing.
Yeah,
but I can see where it would take you out of it if it feels like, okay, is this really something that's new?
It did. You know what? You're right. It did take me out just a little bit. It pulled me out just because I noticed it so much that, like I said, it kind of went from, oh, this is a nice homage to like, are they just copying every single frame? Like, is that, are we getting anything new out of this? Yeah. But so those were my first two, like right away, seriously, within the first page or two, that was unescapable.
I think it's definitely a case of pulling a frame. Experience the same with Star Wars and Doctor Who comics. Yeah. I almost wonder if it's like unavoidable or what's the like appropriate or what's the best approach to that. Because, okay, so Brainiac, because I've only seen the first movie. Brainiac doesn't come in the movies, right?
No, that's Brainiac is not in any of the movies.
Okay. All right. That's what I figured. But it was interesting. So I feel like they did a good job of making him look of the time, even though it's like futuristic. So that was my question as we get through. Because in this first chapter, or first issue, not chapter, Amazon said 12 chapters. And I was like, chapters is not what this is. But we've got Lois and Clark hanging out, going about their day. And then Brainiac has sent a robot down to Earth to check out everything and see what the threat is, and eventually runs into Superman.
Just give me a taste of some of the art.
Yes,
here.
Please do. Feel free to flip through.
See if I can get it to not focus on my face. Yeah. So yeah, right away, like you can, if you're familiar at all with the movies, you will. Oh, come on, focus on the pages. You can tell that, like, yeah, it's definitely of that. How did you describe it? Like, kind of, it's futuristic, but it's futuristic from 1978, right?
Yeah, which I love.
But it's also past, right? Because it's kind of like Metropolis is always kind of like, is it future? Is it past? I don't really know. We're keeping it a little vague.
Yeah, and I was worried at first when I saw that it would be Brainiac and then sitting down like robots, of how that would look. But I think they did a pretty good job of that, honestly. Like, here, I'll share one of them open. But as far as like the overall layout of this, it does look like an old. You and I have watched a lot of older sci-fi movies, a lot of older alien movies, and I feel like this does look about right, where it's like a kind of cheesy looking face. There's kind of like a brain sort of deal. It doesn't look overly complicated, which I thought was still well done.
Yeah, it seemed like it fit the art style pretty well, right? The art itself wasn't like overly complicated or cheesy or like overly drawn or anything like that. Yeah, I think it fit really well.
So he shows up. We have this fight. He fights a robot, and it says like sitting data mothership alerting Brainiac, and it's like, what's a Brainiac? And then we go to the ship where we see Brainiac for the first time, and he does look so cheesy, which I do very much appreciate. Just like leaning on that again. Just
getting to it right now. Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah. You're showing it. Yeah, exactly.
The check out Earth confirmed presence of class ultra-invasive species, Kryptonian. And he's like, okay, this is somehow one of these has escaped. The interspecies balance is in critical danger because of his experience with Kryptonians before. The rogue Kryptonian must be collected by Brainiac.
Yeah, and
which does also feel cheesy as it should.
Should we kind of set up the very beginning? Because I thought the first couple of, we don't really find out until later, although you can kind of figure it out. But the first couple of pages literally picks up at the end of the kind of the scene where Krypton is exploding, right? So at the end of going back to the first movie, right? The end, the end of kind of the beginning, really, the intro. We've seen Jor-El send off Kal-El. His spaceship kind of breaks through the sky barrier and flies away from the planet. And then we see the rest of the Kryptonians kind of running for their lives because they're like, oh, crap, he was right after all. This picks up pretty much right at that moment, right? They're running around. Future Superman's ship has just flown off. And what's interesting is that it's only like 2 pages, but at the end of the second page, when you think, because if you've seen the movie, you know that they're all about to basically burn up and explode.
Yeah.
You think that's about to happen. And then Jor-El goes, wait a minute, this is not right. This is not what was supposed to happen. And then that's it. You don't see them again for, I don't think, until maybe the next issue. But what we come to find out is that that's when Brainiac came in and said, oops, they're about to die. I got to save the civilization. And he literally like shrinks them and just puts them in this little jar.
Yeah, it looks like almost like a little snow globe sort of deal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was having flashbacks from oh gosh, I always forget which show it is. There's this whole theory, right, where there's like a show from the 1980s. Was it Saint Elsewhere? It's like one of those, it's like ER, but like way before ER kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's the whole, I think it's called the Tommy theory, where the show, sorry, spoilers, this is a really old show. The whole show, like the series finale, is that the whole thing was just the dream of this little kid.
Yeah.
And it like zooms in on the snow globe, right? And that's where the hospital is. And because that show has connections to all sorts of other, it's all 6 degrees of separation, right? There's this theory that there's the huge Tommy universe. Whenever I saw these little Brainiac snow globes, I was just like, wait a minute. This is yet another connection. Anyway, sorry.
So I think next issue is probably one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Because it focuses a lot on Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
He is trying to get a job. He's not doing well. I love this whole like back and forth. He's like, I love this Lex Luthor. Because he's so he's not normal comic book Lex Luthor. He's very much like, I am a top villain. Like outright just says he's like, I am an incredible criminal. Yep. I am like above genius level intelligence. And this it starts off so well where he's like, hey, I'm looking for a job. And they're like, yeah, we could try to find you a place at Cord Industries. Do you have any cafeteria experience? And he stops out. He's trying to like get a driver. It's for somebody else. It's splashed him. He throws his toupee away. It's just this like this weird redemption story for Lex is really fun.
The greatest criminal mind of our age. Yeah. I freaking love, again, a throwback to first of all, you're right. It's this Lex Luthor. I mean, it's very Gene Hackman Lex Luthor. It is very much Lex Luthor from this movie. And I loved the running gag throughout, which was, he starts out, I think the first time he says it, he's like, the greatest criminal mind of our age or something like that. Like, I think the first one was pretty much a direct quote from the movie. And then he keeps like saying slight alterations of that. And every one of them is different. And at first I was just like, okay, I get it. There's a couple more. And then I just realized, oh, this is going to be a running gag throughout the rest of this whole book. Funny. It's fantastic. Yes.
It's great because it's like, it's such a different Luthor. Because I really enjoy Lex Luthor in like the regular comics continuity because he's a very interesting person and why he does the way that he does. And I love that this Lex is like, no, I'm just a criminal and like, screw you, Superman.
Yep.
He can't.
Yep.
Get out of my way. Oh,
absolutely.
I feel like they landed him. How did you feel about like how he's portrayed right here, and then the Superman being like, "Hey, I promised you could go out if I'm like watching you, but also can you do me a favor?" And honestly, that's the best. Him going to Lex for help with Brainiac, genius. Like, this guy. His name is Brainiac. He's like really smart. Like he's probably the smart,
right?
Not without saying being like he's probably the smartest. Looks like
what the I thought that was a really interesting twist. I did not see that coming. And I to be clear, like I have not read a lot of Superman comics, hardly any, honestly. So I don't know, really well how what kind of a relationship Superman has with Lex Luthor in the comics a lot. But in this, it kind of surprised me at first because he doesn't really ever have that kind of relationship with him in the movies.
No.
Maybe in Superman 2. But instantly I thought, oh, that's really interesting because now you've gone from like this Gene Hackman Lex Luthor plays this fine line where it's like he's a genius, but he's also just like a pompous ass who's probably not really a genius and just says he is. And this kind of validates that, like, no, if Superman is going to him with this, he really is, for all his like idiocies, he really is a genius. I thought that was pretty neat because that definitely like set a perspective for me going into this. Okay, now I know what to expect here.
Yeah, I have next time we do this, if you don't mind, just keep reading Superman books. I have some I want you to read desperately because there's one that has a really great back and forth.
Okay.
With him and Lex, especially because Lex talks a certain way to Clark.
Oh.
In a friendly but also kind of like put down way that he wouldn't talk to Superman. And it's really interesting to see this back and forth. He's like, Clark, you're just a dumb idiot, like a dumb, weak idiot. And has no idea. It's very well done.
Nice. All right. I like it.
But yeah, this line was really good. Like, you're clearly out of your depth, Superman. It isn't your fault. You were born with all your muscles below your neck.
Yes.
And the ending with him saying like Brainiac, we'll just see about that. And he already has his like Lex Luthor sort of like suit, like the chess piece there. Love that.
I love this. Whoa, losing the cover here. The extra art right here.
Oh, so good. The covers are so good.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. Thank you. Just stopped by to give a like. Recently picked up the Batman 89 Superman 78 combo, which is not ready yet, so we'll aim to catch this later after reading them. I'm gonna have to read Batman 89. I really want to.
Uh-oh. Okay. Is it? Do you know anything about it? Is it done in the same vein as this?
I believe so. Remember these came out around like the same time.
Okay.
So yeah, this does follow the movies as well, but I haven't touched any of that. But I know you can buy like a slipcase which has like both of them in there. But like, I'll share to show you. But like it derives directly from like the movies. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh cool. All right. Yeah, that's looks interesting.
Oh, complete unsolicited suggestion. Andrew should regular appearances talk about how he feels about comics that are sequels to movies. Like more Superman 78, the Batman 89, BTTF.
Back to the Future.
Oh, and Ghostbusters.
All right. Okay. Twist my arm. Thank you.
That sounds great.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
It gives me an excuse to rewatch stuff. So that's good with me.
Yep. You can be, we can flip this around and I'll be old viewer, new viewer.
Yeah.
Both new readers. I don't know, something like that.
So then of course, like we have Lex has figured out a way to contact Brainiac. Oh, good. Thank you.
I'm backing up. So this is, let me get out of the picture so you can see it. So this panel right here, this is back towards the beginning, so I'm kind of backing up. But this is definitely one of the panels that's like straight out of the movie. I think, if I remember correctly, it's the first time we see him. No, that's not right. It's the second time. The first time is when he saves Lois. It's the second time we see him change. Or actually, that might be from Superman 2, now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, it's absolutely...
We'll realize when we do our watch of Superman 2.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm ready for. I'm so excited. And then for Jessica to show us Supergirl, because apparently we've got to watch that. Apparently it's very bad.
It is, and that's one I do not remember because that's not one I watched a million times over, but I have seen it. I would love to see it again. Yes. I've seen little clips every now and then on YouTube, and it's just like, oh, wow. Yeah, it's like glimmery 80s music and all, It's great.
Yeah. We get towards the end. I need to do this like play by play, but I've already started. We get towards the end with Lex has connected to Brainiac, and then Brainiac recognizing that this sort of breach has happened is announcing to the planet saying the fragile balance of your planet's ecosystem in danger. He's warning them of Superman. Like, he is Kryptonian. He's not supposed to be there. And he doubles down like, I'm preserver and cataloger of life. And I've come to save you. And I love the Brainiac ship. It's just this giant head with like little tentacles. He just sends us little robots to him.
Yeah.
That's very classic Brainiac.
Are you
Earth's
talking
native
about
ecosystem will be restored. Yes.
Talking about that right there? Yeah.
Look at him. He's so cute. Brainiac's gone through a lot of different looks. Like the newest, My Adventure with Superman, which I'm going to force you to watch eventually, even if it's just with me and I sit on your couch. I'm like, next episode.
All right.
That Brainiac is different from this Brainiac is different from, it all changes all the time. But regardless, there's a big ship and a lot of robot people coming down to fight.
Nice. Here's another panel straight from Superman 2.
Yeah.
If I can get out of focus or it's out of the shot so it'll focus. Yeah,
there
this one. Yeah, there's a shot in Superman 2. You'll probably when we do sit down to watch Superman 2, we should flip through this first real quick, just so you can be like, hey, I recognize that shot.
I'm absolutely down.
All right, so I think I'm caught up to you, or I'm close to it anyway. I'm kind of flipping as you're doing the play-by-play. I'm loving the play-by-play. Yeah.
Yes, we have this back and forth. He's talking about the destructive potential of one Kryptonian, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. I understand one alien force would come in and be like, "Hey, just one Kryptonian here near your yellow sun can wreck house, and y'all should be aware and prepared." And at the end, Superman surrenders, which I think is really sweet. I mean, this is very him. Just him on his knees and everyone begging not to do that. And then Lex just being like, where's my tip? Which I
exactly
on brand.
Yep.
I'm probably going too slow about stuff, but I don't know if you have any thoughts about that one, but I like the way it plays out with him.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And again, it's a little bit of it pulls from Superman 2 a little bit. I don't think it's a big spoiler, but you'll find that so you remember General Zod and his couple of fellow criminals in the first movie. So they come back right there, the biggies in Superman 2. And there's kind of a similar scene where it's not the same kind of setup, but Superman ultimately is like, all right, fine, I will bow to you, kind of thing. And again, it's like pulling a lot of influence from that in these panels. As I was reading these panels, I was like, I think I see what's coming. And then I see that shot where he's kneeling. I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally exactly what it is. But it was done well. I like it. I loved how it was done. This is a different setting because in this setting, right, he is in the middle of Metropolis, basically, and Brainiac's like, I'm gonna destroy all of this unless you surrender, kind of thing.
And of course, our man. It's like, of course.
He's gonna do it. He's Superman.
And I love how the next one starts. Like the first 5 pages of issue 3 are really sweet, and I really love when we see the people of Metropolis stand up for Superman. I love stories like that because you see a lot of mix. There's a lot of stories that have where big government, Amanda Waller, Argus, whoever's running stuff is like, hey, Superman's an alien and we should not feel safe, and they turn that against him. But and this makes so much sense for the movie and for this kind of Superman, where it's like, no, we have come to love him. And I don't care if you're a big scary alien. We're gonna come out with our one guy's got a tennis racket. We've got some bats and a shovel, and they're all ready. They're like, no, this is not in our town, not in our Metropolis. It's not in our Metropolis,
not our town, Jack. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I
and
loved that moment. That was so cool.
And then the sweet moment between him and Lois, I thought was really where he listened for her heartbeat, so he could say goodbye. That was a nice touch that I don't think I've seen in the movies before. Yeah, at first I was confused. So I was like, is he sending? Because I was like, he can't send a message. All he can do is listen to her heart. But when I first saw it, I was like, whoa, did you like send like a, I don't know,
I know,
a vibration?
it did kind of feel like that at first. Yeah. Cause you see the I guess what's supposed to be the sound waves coming into his ears, but they kind of look like they're emanating out of his head. And I was like, what's going on here? But yeah, that was a very, very touching moment. And then he gone. Yep.
But then we get to see the ship.
Oh yeah,
which is great. And there's this great picture. Like, I know you haven't like read much comics, but I'm assuming you're like aware of stuff. Like, they show us right away. Like in one of the jars is I never remember if it's Ran or Thanagar because like the two fought, but the place where Hawk Girl and Hawkman are from, their planet has also been contained in this. So,
yeah, right here. Yep.
Yeah, which I love. So he shows like already like visible, like this is like a recognizable planet if you know DC stuff.
Yep.
Oh, and the whole like, my God, not divine, scientific. It's great, a little like back and forth. And getting to see his family. I thought that was, I think that's a really sweet homage to like the movie and like fans of the movie. Just give you the opportunity to witness that reunion.
Yeah, and it was a long one. Like that, I think that lasts like the next couple of issues, right? Like yeah. So he gets shrunk and put in with the rest of the Kryptonians that he saved, and that was like maybe the most kind of like felt like a departure from the movies. Like up until now, a lot of these scenes, like I said, have been very, very influenced by the first couple of movies. That felt like to me like the most departure from it, because suddenly Kal-El is reunited with his family, and he's kind of like diminished in a sense, like not purposely. They're not trying to like diminish him, but suddenly he's not Superman, right? He's back with his Kryptonians, so they're all equal power wise or whatever. And suddenly he just feels like kind of this newbie who's not nearly as smart and as experienced as all these people that were saved. And so there's just this real like, there was a very interesting juxtaposition of like taking this super powerful person and like suddenly he's just an ordinary person, and he's kind of like naive and innocent amongst all these other people. And it lasted for a while.
And he gives in because he's like, well, I've already surrendered. I'm here with my family. This is where I'm supposed to be as long as my people are safe. And he settles in and he talks to everybody, and he, they have this nice heart to heart, and seeing like the Kryptonians as like scientists, like, hey, we don't have powers right now, but science is our way out of this. Let's explore that. Like, have this be your home. Hi, Mr. Tex. Thank you for my gift. Thank you so much.
Ooh, what'd you get? What'd you get?
Oh, that was the what I showed you.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. One thing I want to point out real quick. So little known fact, I don't know if this is in all the comics and stuff, but in the movies at least, Clark Kent parts his hair on one side. Yeah. But when he's Superman, it is parted on the other side, right? That was, I don't know if that was done before or after the 1978 movie, but Christopher Reeve specifically, like they figured out which side looks good. And then they're like, all right, we got to make me look dopey on the other side. So he flipped it on the other side, right? They carried that over in this book. So Clark Kent has his hair parted one way, Superman the other. What I thought was interesting is that when he then is shrunk and put in with all the other Kryptonians, his hair was parted the same way that it's normally parted when he is Clark Kent.
Oh, that's a good catch. That
was a very, very minor detail, which at first I honestly thought was just like maybe they just weren't paying attention. But no, I think they did that on purpose, because it does. I guess it kind of makes him look less powerful, right? He looks more like Clark Kent. He doesn't have the glasses, but otherwise he looks like Clark Kent.
And he's always like, Clark is an interesting character where when he's Clark, that's himself. Like I always reference this story that was in like one of the, I don't know, Trinity Rebirth, like Justice League Rebirth, something, where Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman, they all meet, and she gives them, like, she has them all hold the lasso, and they all have to introduce themselves and say who they are. And Batman says, I'm Batman, and Superman says, I'm Clark Kent.
Oh.
And to me, that's such a perfect view, because that is who he is at his heart. That's who he feels comfortable as. Same as Batman doesn't feel like him. That Batman is himself when he is Batman. He does not feel like himself when he's Bruce Wayne.
Right.
That is not him. And so to me, I'm like, that at his core, if he's comfortable, he's Clark.
Yep.
Superman is just it's just what has to be done.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, I love that. So yeah, there's quite a lot there. Trying to see if there's any more panels.
We do talk at the end where he takes like the back and forth with, we have the back and forth in like Kandor, with the Kryptonians. So then on the other side we have Lois getting kidnapped by Lex, who's making the right decision, which is fantastic. Because she's pissed, she's got her like spray, and she's like, "Get away from me!" And he's like, "Pay attention. You'll love this. Brainiac is about to learn that I am the most devious criminal intelligence in the universe when the time comes. You can print that. Lex baby is going to bring back Superman." I think that's great. I think that's great.
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think they're playing so well on. I mean, really, Gene Hackman. They're playing really well on Gene Hackman.
I would love more Gene Hackman, Lex Luthor.
Oh, I know why they don't, and eventually I'll have you read some stuff and you'll be like, "Oh, I see." But this is fun. This is really refreshing to see like a villain who's a villain, and Lex Luthor is too, but he's a different kind of intelligence, you know. And this one is like, the whole, like how you said, like a pompous, you know, sort of full of himself guy. It's very openly so, not just like, I'm Lex Luthor and I'm very cool behind the scenes and I hate Superman, but he's like, this guy's like, I hate Superman.
Absolutely.
You know, that kind of guy. So yeah, next we get some of Brainiac's origin story, which I thought was really interesting. About how he witnessed the destruction of everyone in his home planet, and he's like, I'm alone, so let me just figure out. He worked hard to find the best way for himself to exist, like put his mind in the right body, and it's sort of like origin of his goal, essentially.
Yeah, I thought that was a I guess somewhat predictable, but still like well done origin story for a villain. You kind of can almost see it coming, but I thought it sold me, right? I wasn't like, that's hokey or whatever. I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense. I could absolutely see why you would become the person you are today because of that. That's trauma, baby.
We would know.
Yep, that kind of trauma, that'll absolutely do it to you.
Except for you and I are like trying to collect like whole species and civilizations.
Right, yeah. Maybe not quite to that level.
So how'd you feel about the Kandor stuff in the next issue? Like, he's back and they're like, he's been announced as the successor.
I almost felt like some of that was all right. It felt a little I'm trying to remember, unless I'm forgetting something, it just kind of felt like a little unnecessary. Felt like it just kind of slowed things down a little bit. Because in the end it didn't really matter, right? In the end they were just like, spoiler, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but we ultimately figure out a way for Superman to get back out. And so that whole kind of middle part about like Jor-El says, I'm going to retire, basically, and you're going to be my successor. And there's this weird, like, you're my successor because of heredity, lineage stuff that was just like, that's kind of, I don't know, felt like a little, what's the word? Just like filler almost.
Yeah. I definitely see that. And of course, we get Lois brought in. She's found a way to connect. She's talking to them. They're connecting. And Lex Luthor somehow, by this, like, the way they connected Superman, where he placed this, like, thing on his suit as he left, the technology is so advanced enough that, because he was able to connect through this, like, space, that even the Kryptonians are like, wow, this is really impressive. This is really incredible. We could use this to get you out of here.
So I will say, like, that part, basically you're right, he basically bugged him, right? Like the classic, like, oh, when you're not looking, I'm going to pat you on the back, and really I've put this tiny little thing on your suit, and somehow Brainiac didn't notice it, somehow none of the Kryptonians noticed it. It was a little contrived, but it also was like, all right, that's fine. Right? You got to get out of this somehow. So that works for me.
I do think it fits like the storytelling style of the late 70s, early 80s, where it's like, yeah, of course.
Oh,
of course he's able to.
That's actually a very good point. Yes, it totally does. You're right.
Because I think if you made it too complex, it wouldn't match like the style of this.
That's a very good point. I'm super glad you said that. That kind of reframes how I thought about that part. And not that it was terrible, but yeah, that's a very good point.
But it is, it is cheesy. Although Lex Luthor is canonically, I think canonically, something that's wrong, the smartest man on Earth in the DC comics.
Oh wow.
I think Batman's second. It changes a lot, but I think he's the smartest one.
Okay.
He's also a bald loser.
Smartest man, which makes him like just smarter than 50% of the people on Earth. Something like that.
DC's not progressive enough to do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
I would love if that was the case. Marvel's smartest person, I think, is a girl.
Oh, nice.
It's a young girl, but yeah, that's Moon Girl. But yeah, I don't think DC is. They're progressive in some ways. In some ways, like no.
Fair.
Lex would be if he wasn't an egotist. That alone puts Batman above. You know, that is true. There is like the IQ smart, and then there's his ego does very much get in the way. It's like how Batman is incredibly intelligent, but he is not emotionally intelligent. So he does suffer in that way.
Yeah.
But so do both those guys do.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we get towards the move to next issue. Superman's about to get out. We have this nice goodbye, which I thought was very sweet. I was surprised about his dad. His dad is very different than what I guess it matches the movie Jor-El, but it's very different than what I'm used to as far as Jor-El is.
How that's something I'm not familiar with. What kind of Jor-El are you used to?
So this one felt like he obviously cares for him, but he doesn't know how to really say it. Yeah. He doesn't feel as as close as openly loving as what I'm used to seeing. And I don't know if that matches more so the actor himself.
It could be, right? We talked a little bit before about how famously little effort Marlon Brando put into his role in this movie, literally reading his lines that are taped onto a sheet of paper onto the little baby as he's talking to him about blasting off. Yeah, I can see that. You're totally right though. He did, whether he meant to do it or was just lazy, he definitely played a that classic kind of distant father who cares but doesn't really know how to show it.
Yeah, sort of like a king that's focused on the hierarchy.
Right?
Yeah. Who has the love but doesn't really know how to deal with it. That's the vibe of Jor-El in this. His mother Laura is very much I love you, you're my heart. Yep. I hate that your love was taken from you and all this. And his dad's you wanna be my guy now? Can you figure out the ship? The population's out of control. My son, but sort of you are my son, and I like you because you are my son, my heir, my
Yeah. That was a touching moment though, because by now you have gotten used to the fact that he's back with his family and all the Kryptonians, but then of course inevitably he's now faced with this situation of, I have the opportunity to go back and save everybody on Earth, but it means leaving you all. I just got reunited with my parents that I really never knew, but I kind of knew because they, absorbed all their knowledge and everything. And now I have to leave you again, possibly for good.
Yeah.
That's tough.
This does continue on after it. I did accidentally go ahead and read 5 of the issues. So I will say.
That's a pretty big accident.
Well, because the Amazon thing was it's 12 issues. I was I don't think that it is. And I looked through, I read some of it, and I was wait, let me just double check. I was there's no way.
Yeah.
it deals with communism and Russians. No surprise, early 80s sort of style. The Russians
Oh yeah.
build a super suit or something.
Superman 4. Yep.
Is that what Superman 4?
Well, not indirectly.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. More about nuclear weapons. More about the nuclear arms race, which
Of course.
is about Russians. But
it always is. I mean, we looked up for years. Like all of our film was like, we need an enemy.
it was so
Russian
easy
in there. It's just
So
so
easy.
Boxing match, a Russian. Everyone's a Russian. It just
Red
makes
Dawn,
it easier.
like, oh yeah, so easy. You could not. Yeah. All the writers just like were like, this is awesome, piece of cake. 80s are easy. Towards the end, I just wanted to point out yet another panel. This is absolutely straight from. There is a shot in at the end of the first movie, right, where Superman is flying around the Earth in reverse rotation, trying to make time go backwards. Which, but yeah, this is absolutely a frame straight from that. I've watched this so many times, I can absolutely tell that.
This is why it's great, because I would not have picked up on any of this stuff. And I'm glad I watched it before reading this, because I would not have had the same connection. I mean, I enjoy it, obviously, but like I would have had the same connection to it.
By the way, did you notice? I just took the cover off and I did not notice this before, but
oh no,
yeah, check that out.
That is so cool.
That's great.
I think I like it better without the dust jacket on. Of course,
yeah.
I am notoriously anti-dust jacket. I don't like them. It's just extra stress.
I know. That's why I took it off just now. I kept fumbling it around, just trying to flip pages. Yeah.
That's really cool. I'll have to check out that like slipcase one with Superman 78 and Batman 89. Because that's really cool.
So sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead, but I did want to show that panel.
No, I think it's good to jump ahead because I'm going slow. How do you feel about, so he gets out, we have a nice conversation between him and his parents, and then we have the face-off between him and Brainiac.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not always as into as much like action fight sequences, but I think it looked really cool. I don't know if you have more of a like, I don't know what the word is.
More to say about it, I guess. No, I actually share that feeling with you. Yeah, I thought it was fine. It wasn't too long.
No,
probably could have maybe been a little shorter, but now I'm with you. Like when it's this kind of art style, like when I first got into comics was like right around the like Jim Lee era of X-Men, right? So very different kind of art style.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I see this kind of art style and I'm just like, man, there's nothing really special about it. Now I realize that's a point in time kind of thing. I'm sure a lot of people feel very differently about it. But for me, it's just like, this is just getting the job done and nothing more. So when that's the case, yeah, action shots are just like, I'll look at it real quick, but I'm flying through those pages pretty quick. It's just like, all right, I'm picturing this in real time or even faster than real time. So yeah, the action parts were okay. Nothing special.
Yeah, I like the little bits where you have Clark talking and saying, or Superman talking and saying his nice Christopher Reeve Superman stuff, like, you're a smart being, use it to show your better nature. Those kind of like nice things. And you always have like the retorts that's like, I am my better nature. Those are always fun.
Yep. He totally was doing the very, very you're right, Christopher Reeve kind of Superman, like, hey, I'm about to pulverize you. Please let me give you a second chance. Like, come on, just do the right thing.
Which I like. I like that back and forth. You have the villain just like saying all this stuff, like, why are you defending them? Why are you taking care of them? And he's like, you don't understand. You're afraid. And then I love like Superman's continuous, like, let me point out what you're actually feeling. You think you're feeling this.
Yeah.
But you're just scared. You're trying to like find reason for this where there's not reason. You're just saying that to justify the things that you're doing.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, I love that back and forth. Like, I've lost everything. Superman's like, yeah, so have I, and it's fine. I didn't like ruin everybody else's time about it. Like,
yep. And you know what? That's right. So you're right. All of that like back and forth was going on while they're fighting, right? And that's really where we've hit the climax of the whole book and really the whole moral message of the whole book, right? I mean, that's the whole deeper meaning from all of this is how do you deal with losing everything? How do you deal with some kind of horrible trauma? Here's two completely different ways to deal with it. And one of them is very hurtful and one of them is not. So maybe try the one that's not. Yeah.
Which is what I like about Superman a lot in this and I think in his best iterations in my mind, where compared to some other superheroes, he's one that like people always think he's boring. And I think that they're not understanding him. He's been through a lot and he has so much power, but he is fighting constantly to try to do the right thing and try to see it from another person's point of view. And I think that's what makes him interesting. And people see it as like, oh, he's just bland golden boy. I'm like, you don't see all that is really like in the way of that. He doesn't have to do any of these things.
Right.
He really doesn't have to. But that's how he was taught to do it and see it and try. And he does mess up like all the time, but he really does make the effort. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. That's part of, I think that's part of what holds it like so dear to me, is just that character.
Yeah. Of course he saves the day. He defeats him. He has to help Metropolis because it's falling out of the sky now.
Oh yeah, that was good.
And there's a great page. I hope I know you saw it too, but with the Goonies.
Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah.
We've got to talk about the Goonies. Another movie that I had not seen until like last year.
There were actually, you might not know it, there were more than just the Goonies. Let me see if I can find this.
You might know some of the references better than me.
So okay, there's the Goonies shot.
It's so good.
Yeah, so this is all while this big fight is going on, right? And we're just getting random glimpses of different people. Apparently the Goonies are in Metropolis at the moment.
They're on a field trip.
Where is it? There's like other references. Let me see if I can find a couple. I think that was maybe the biggest one that's like, oh yeah, I know who they are. But like I noticed some other just random passersby that were like, wait, you were in some kind of late 70s, early 80s TV show. I don't know what. I'm having a hard time finding it now, but there was several different panels like that, to the point where it almost like for me, it got really close to being like, it's a little too much. Let's slow down on that. But it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Why can't I find any of the rest of them? Maybe they were earlier on. Maybe they're a little more spread out than I remembered. But,
yeah, maybe there was a few that I think that looked noticeable, but I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, I wish I could find this one. There's like this one person whose name I do not know. I cannot think of it. Don't know his character, but I absolutely like. He's a dude with a mustache, and I'm like, yep, no, you're absolutely
from because he
early 80s TV.
Probably the same one. The comedian. He's actually in the Superman movie, right? Like this.
Oh, I forgot about that. Richard Pryor. Yes, Richard Pryor. Maybe he's earlier on. I can't remember where it is now.
I think he's early.
That's not who I was thinking of, but you're right. That's an even better example. Yeah, he's earlier on. They're just like kind of Oh, here's the one I was thinking of. I don't know if anybody's going to know who this person is, but if you've watched older TV shows, somebody please chime in and tell me who that guy is. I recognize him, and I'll go scouring IMDb later and figure out who he is. But yeah, you're right. There's other cameos like Richard Pryor, who's in Superman 3. Yeah, he is clearly, not called out as Richard Pryor, but he is absolutely Richard Pryor in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then by the end, Clark is doing Clark things, and Lois is still being Lois. She's like, I gotta get the store, and he's trying to take her out on a date, and it's not working, but he's there. And it's really sweet.
I do like how the book was very book-ended by this like setup of Clark trying to have a lunch date with Lois. Yeah.
And she's like, I can't be bothered. I'm busy.
Yeah. It was very sweet. I loved it. Thank you so much for recommending this.
I'm so glad you liked it.
Yeah.
I have so many Superman stories I want to read. You should bring in Jessica too.
Yeah.
Because there's so many there's so many good ones. And they're short too. A lot of them are just short, but they're the kind of books you could really just dig through and like look at the breakdown. Like there's one book in particular where they really break down how Clark looks different from Superman, and they even like detail the way he hunches and like how he
Ooh.
looks like he doesn't like.
Oh
And you can
yeah.
tell by the illustration, but he looks like, I mean, I wouldn't say fat. Like he looks like he's more of a rotund man and not like a muscular man because of the way he is. And it just depends on how he holds himself. And like the way he'll like kind of drop stuff, but like on purpose. And so he's like, he looks like he's doing it as a mess, but he's got a plan. And so he helps people by like messing up as he's doing stuff. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
And that's why when you showed me this, I was like, this is how it's supposed to be. Like, this is the perfect example of like, because Christopher Reeve as Clark Kent does feel so different than Christopher Reeve as Superman.
Yeah. Yeah, what was it? I think we looked up the trivia, and when Christopher Reeve was studying up for this, he wanted to mimic, I think it was like Cary Grant, and I can't remember what movie it was from, but he very specifically was like, he had a picture in mind of like, this is how I make Clark Kent nothing like Superman, and he very much modeled it after some Cary Grant character from, I don't know, when was Cary Grant, 50s, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not super sure, but yeah,
and that's why those like super serious Superman, super serious Clark Kent just makes no sense to me. It doesn't work.
No.
And so those, I'm like, I understand people like them, and I love that for you all. It does not work for me.
That is why, you know, when they did the Superman reboot with Henry Cavill, I was just like, love him as an actor.
Yeah, same.
He's not Clark Kent. He just can't play Clark Kent. He's way too good looking and muscular and present to be Clark Kent. Just no. Sorry.
Because even when he's a nerd, he's still cool.
You
know what I mean?
Right?
Like
yeah.
He's talking about Warhammer, right? And you're like, that is a handsome man.
Yes.
That's a handsome, confident man.
That's a good point. Yes, you're right. He can't pull it off because in real life he's a nerd, but he's a freaking awesome nerd.
Yeah.
So how in the world is he gonna? Yeah, he can't play Clark Kent then. Yeah, it's funny.
We'll see how that new one's gonna be. I'm nervous.
Yeah.
But the cartoon is really good, so I'll just keep leaving on that.
Cool.
Richard said it looked like Stan Lee from 1978, so it could be.
It did. It's not okay. It's not. Oh man, I wish I could think. What was this? What was the guy's show? Hold on. Barnaby Jones? No, I don't think that's it. Oh man, I know.
Show it to my mom and be like, "What is this?"
I know who that guy is. I'm trying to like Google like late 70s. I'm pretty sure he was in a cop show. So like late 70s cop
so not
show.
Like pre-Selleck.
Pre-Selleck, yes. Pre-Tom Selleck. I don't want to take forever on this, so if I'm dragging this out,
you're fine.
Know, but oh gosh, what is his name?
Barney Miller. That's what Richard said.
Barney Miller. Yes, that sounds. I think that's right. Barney Miller. Yes, that's totally it. Yes, that's absolutely Barney Miller.
Oh my. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You see
now,
it now.
Now that I see the picture of me, yes, absolutely.
Yep. You're right. It does look a lot like Stan Lee from that era. But it's 100% Barney Miller. Yeah.
Nuber says, I honestly feel that Superman 78 is better than Batman 89, even though both channel their own series well, but 89 gets really weird. This felt like a baller Superman film post Superman 4. Probably, I wonder if this is easier to work with too, because like with Batman 89, you have Tim Burton can be a difficult one to like work along with. And the cheesiness is almost... The cheesiness of the Batman films work really well because the music works really well sometimes. And so it can be difficult to show that, I think. I wonder if it's difficult to show that in comic book because it's everything working together so well that makes it so great. Like, da, 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 da. Oh.
You're right. Yeah, you don't have the music. I mean, you can imagine the music, but yeah, you don't have it as much. Yeah, there's definitely...
If Kiss from a Rose by Seal isn't playing, is it Batman?
Is it even Batman?
Is it?
Oh, man. Which one was that? Was that Batman and Robin? Or was that...
I think it was. I think it was one of the later ones. It might have been Batman Forever.
Oh, man, I can't remember now.
It's my favorite song.
That's funny.
I had to play it at my wedding. At the string quartet play it at my wedding.
I love it.
So
it's a good, solid song. Okay, anyway.
It's really good. It makes no sense, and I love that. So at this point in the show, we got to give our rating out of 10.
Ooh. Oh, I forgot about this. All right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go with my gut and say 8.
Okay.
I have yet to figure out why, but that's just the number that popped into my head. So I'm going to say 8.
I like that.
Yeah.
I rate purely on vibes.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to like a 6.57 because I really like it.
Okay.
I think there's I couldn't tell you exactly what in there I think would make it better. But I really did enjoy it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll say with 7. I really like it. I think it's solid. Yeah. I think it delivers really well. I'm really interested in reading the one following this to see if I like that as much.
Yeah.
I think it's like the Superman 78, the Metal Curtain.
Okay.
And I think that one's kind of recent-ish. Once it's all up on DC Universe, I'll just send you the link. You can read it on there.
Is it? Do you know? Is it the same creator, same writer and artist?
Same writer, different artist. So the art does feel very different, but not in like a bad way. What I've read so far, I've enjoyed it, but I'm less interested in like big strong Russian man fight Superman.
Yeah.
But you do get to see Lois's dad, General Sam Lane.
Oh.
So that's cool. Which I didn't know that was, I guess, canon because her dad's involved in the show right now, the cartoon, which is really great.
Okay. That's something I don't know anything about because that's not in any of the movies, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her bringing that in is neat because he's like he's some sort of like secret ops or like big like military guy is where she comes from. Okay.
Wow. Cool. I didn't know that.
Apparently Metal Curtain is still going on. That makes sense because then I was like, why isn't this all available yet on? Oh, this came out at the beginning of this year, like end of last year. So that's why.
So we got to wait a little bit. All right.
Andrew, were you into Smallville? Did you ever watch it?
No, I didn't. I did not watch Smallville. And let me tell you why. I did this dumb thing. Like, okay, when Smallville came out, I think I was like this is going to date me. I think I was in my early 20s, maybe.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Probably. I think that was like early 2000s when that was.
That sounds right. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's right. So yeah, I was in my like early 20s and I don't know. I was just doing this stupid thing where I was like, CW, that's for teenagers. I'm beyond that, which is completely ludicrous, but that's the way I was at the time. So no, I never watched it. I think that's maybe fair. I caught like glimpses of an episode here or there and that was it.
Yeah, I have no idea if that holds up at all. I was really into. I really like Smallville, and I loved Lois and Clark. Now you couldn't get me anywhere near Dean Cain now, but.
No! Oh,
I watched a lot of Smallville, and Lois and Clark, and so that was like my. That's how I was introduced to Superman, like. Initially, besides like if he's on different like cartoons or something, and just generally Superman is, but
when Lois and Clark was like early mid 90s maybe or something.
I think so, and then they just like they did morning reruns on TBS.
Which is okay. So I think I remember
TNT or something.
I think Lois and Clark, Superman and Lois. No, Lois and Clark, 1993. Yeah. So that I was a kid. I would have been 15 when that. No, that's not right. Yeah, 15 when that came out. Watched that some, but it was, I don't know. Again, I don't know. I was a weird boy when I was a kid. I just was like, oh, this is all relationship stuff. I want to see Superman fly around. It was, but yeah. So I kind of watched it, but I wasn't really into it either. And again, I was like, so it was it was such a departure from the Christopher Reeve stuff that I was just like, this is not my Superman.
You're a teen. You're supposed to be pretend. Like there's this era of like, we all go this era of just pretension, right?
Oh, gosh,
and then we reach the age where I'm just like, no, I'm just here to have a good time.
I don't
care. Like,
yep.
And it took We all went through it. And now I'm just like, I don't care. This looks cool. Suicide Squad anime? Yeah, all right, let's do it. This looks dumb.
Yes.
Let's watch
Absolutely.
this.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out. I'd love to have you on again.
Okay.
But more importantly, I just want to schedule Superman 2. So we'll figure that out.
Yeah. And for anybody on here who hasn't heard us talk about it already, the current plan is to watch both versions of Superman 2, both the theatrical and the Richard Donner cut. Possibly back to back.
I want to do it
the same night. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we just have some snacks, some drinks. We go for it.
And I think unless anybody here thinks it's otherwise better, I think the plan is to watch the theatrical release first and then the Richard Donner cut. Yeah. That just kind of makes sense to me.
Good. I wonder if the Donner cut has any commentary or anything that we could add in.
Ooh, I don't remember. I think when I watched it, I don't think it was like on a DVD or that would have had commentary. I think it might have been like an early Netflix release or something like that. So I'm not sure. Yeah, we should look into that.
I'm ready.
But yeah, that's a solid like 4 to 5 hours we need to carve out sometime.
That sounds great. I think our partners will be like, really? But I'm ready.
Yes, we'll prepare games and snacks and like nap stations for them so that they can go off and do other things while we're sitting and watching these movies the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan to me.
Chat, I'll be here again tomorrow at 8 talking about The Last Ronin, the story from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ooh. It'll
be the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic I've ever read.
That's cool.
Ellie's joining me for that one. And then remind me, Andrew, I believe this Thursday,
yes,
you and I, Near Mint Collective, which contains like our, OG Near Mint Condition crew. Once a month, we just kind of hang out and chat live on Near Mint Collective channel. So we'll be doing that Thursday night. Usually everyone's having a drink and we're just hanging out and talking about geeky stuff. Chill. You can catch us there on Thursday.
Yes. So. Yeah. And amongst other things, I'll be bringing some latest Star Trek news from the fan films that I've been working on lately.
I'm ready. I've been watching a lot of Orville, so I'm like in a Star Trek sort of.
Ooh, nice. All right. I like it. Yeah, that'd be fun. Why not? Right. Hold on. We got a comment here real quick. Why not just the Richard Donner cut? It's a good question. I don't know. I feel like in order to really like just understand how the movies all came out, because I guess maybe we'll eventually get around to 3 and 4. Superman 3 and 4, maybe.
I'm in this now.
They're not nearly as good, but
I don't care.
But maybe, yeah. I feel like watching the original theatrical release, it's just got some important bits to it. And if nothing else, it's what I grew up with. So, because I mean, the Donner cut didn't come out until what, like the early 2000s? No, late, somewhere after 2000, somewhere long after 2000. So for a long time, that's all there was. So yeah, if nothing else, I'm just going to be the begrudged old person that says, "This is how I did it back in my day. You got to do it too."
So I like having the whole like background of all of it, and the comparison. Like to me, that's fun to see like how it became what, and so.
Yeah, I think it actually will be. It would be kind of fun to compare the two. I've seen them both many times. I've never watched them like back to back for such a super close comparison.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And chat, thank you so much for being here.
Yep.
It's a great way to start my Monday. Now I got to go to the gym before I go to bed. So thank you all so much for being here.
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks, everybody.
We'll catch you next time. Bye.